Hmm.
Good afternoon and welcome to this Friday's App Clinic. My name is Reto Meier. I'm joined by Ian Lewis and Senior Executive Producer Alex Lucas. On the engineering panel we have Daniel Pham, our NFL expert, and today we're going to be looking at football apps.
Now, if you're watching us live, first, thanks for sticking through the completely screwed up intro that engineer Daniel has provided us, because he's usually great, but not today. And second, if you have any questions for us or any comments that you want to make during the show, engineer Alex is, producer, senior vice executive producer Alex is standing by on the YouTube live stream. So he's actually watching the comments as they go by. He's checking to make sure that we're not, going all fuzzy or muted or distorted or anything, but at the same time he can watch your comments and pass them along to us if you say anything interesting.
So I'm really excited today that you guys decided to do football. The football season is in full swing, and so I've been away from Australia for a while, so I wanted to kick off and find out exactly how the football teams are doing. So I've got this app here, Aussie Rules Live, which is really good.
See, when you said Aussie Rules Live, I thought this was going to be a Black Sabbath concert.
Interesting. Yes. No.
No. So this is.
If we switch to the phone there rather than the tablet or yourself.
I'm gonna move the camera. Very
slick.
Nice.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's not really what we had in mind.
No, this is pretty good. I mean, it's got some sort of iPhone-y stylings here, and we have kind of the action bar, but
but it's not exactly football. It has something about Australia in it.
Well, yeah, Australian football. That's what you guys are talking about, footy, right?
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Any sport that can be abbreviated to something that sounds like you put it on a baby when they go to sleep is not a sport.
It's
in
not
my
working
book.
for you? All right.
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It's an easy mistake to make, right?
Right.
I'm from the west coast of Australia, so football.
Oh, West Coast. That explains the whole thing.
It does. But okay, so we're not talking about Aussie rules. So obviously, I thought this through. So I've got this rugby app, which is great. Works. It's not quite as nice to display. We don't have the action bar here. We kind of got the old school tabs. But similarly, we've
not really getting it.
No?
Who the Slippers, the Blues,
Yeah, Brumbies here, Breads, yeah.
the Hurricanes.
Possibly.
Yeah,
No,
this isn't doing it for me either. No, Daniel, you feeling it?
I have no idea what Reto's talking about.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you're talking
I know.
football,
Like,
but you're not talking Aussie rules or rugby.
Well, who do you prefer, War or Woofer, in the Alliance Stadium match? I'm glad to know that it's not just in America that we totally sell out our stadiums.
Oh no!
Try again, foreign boy.
All right. Oh, well, okay. So I've made a common mistake here. I assumed that when you guys are talking football, you meant something like this, because obviously what a lot of people think of as football, you call soccer. But I did think this through, so I have some other football apps.
See, I knew you were going to try this.
And what's that, eh?
I knew you were going to try and pull in that whole rest of the world football thing.
Well, we have a lot.
And
of
I know
viewers
exactly why, because you know that our primary audience is in Austria.
This is true. We have a lot of Austrian viewers, so
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in.
Shout out to you guys.
So I don't know if we've got the Austrian league here. I should go through because I'm surprised. Oh, yeah, I think that's the Austrian flag. So there we go. So we can see, we can drill in. The actual app itself, again, we kind of got this pseudo action bar with the refresh button, which I know you're not a fan of. Back button, which
you know what?
should be an app.
You know what? I give up. Fine. We're not doing your Aussie thing, but I get it. Okay.
Okay.
We've got enough non-US audience here that probably because every programmer in the US except for you and me has been laid off. Fine. We'll do a mix. I was excited because the NFL is starting their season.
Oh, the NFL!
Yes.
Oh,
the NIFL.
Is the F for football? I didn't realize you guys had a kicking game that you were proud of. Oh, that's great.
It's not just kicking, actually. There's all sorts of interaction between feet and hands and
balls.
So, let's go ahead and take a look at a few apps from the NFL, from the American
All right,
football.
Let's have a look at this. We can. It'll be an education. Everything I know from American football is from Friday Night Lights. So this should be an education.
Yeah, well, they play high school rules there, don't they?
Well, they were in high
those are
school,
people
so
like pussies.
I would assume so.
All right, so let's get ready for the NFL season. We're gonna crack open an American beer.
Interesting. Don't we need like a tailgate? Maybe a grill? Is there a grill around here?
No, but I've already spilled beer on the table, so I think we are off to an
a good
excellent start.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's. So, what do you want to start with? You guys are the NFL experts.
Well, let's actually start with one of the NFL apps.
Okay.
We have that one. So, if we go over to the tablet, one of the apps that I thought was really impressive is NFL Preseason Live.
Oh, nice.
Now, the thing about NFL Preseason Live, it has really terrible reviews. And there was one really good reason for that. It's that on ICS and up, actually on Honeycomb and up, the video playback was really, really sketchy. Now, sadly, this is because previous to Honeycomb, they were actually using their own playback engine for their HTTP live streaming. And post Honeycomb, they went ahead and, there you go, post Honeycomb. They went ahead and used our playback engine, and it turns out that ours was a little less resilient than theirs. They had some streams that had a little bit of. Okay, so I think we're going to need to switch to the regular camera here, because as soon as we start playing video, it switches over to full screen mode.
Boy, you may want to zoom out just a touch, I think.
So what they'd done is they'd had a few streams where the audio part of it was malformed, and it crashed our decoder, and then it was unable to recover. So once we got rid of that problem, everything was okay.
Nice.
And I like the app. There's a few problems with it, but the basic concept is really cool. So what you're getting here is we start a game. You can look at any game that's already played, or I believe you can look at them live. I haven't had the time to check it out live myself. And when you now here's what's going to happen, and this is the problem that we've seen in the past, is we actually can't get the video now because because that one stream crashed it.
Gotcha.
You gotta kind of know.
So once
which,
you have the crash,
which
then you're
Yeah.
Right.
So let's go ahead and just pretend that video is playing. That's probably best, yeah.
Because the man might get up.
We should have just said that to begin with. Should have been like, oh yeah, we blacked it out because of the man, because we're that good.
Exactly. Well, this is well done. We can actually see the video here, but I believe it's not coming across because Daniel is blacking it out in real time.
Yes, exactly. Nice. Good save. Okay, so what you can see though is they've actually got a whole list of all the plays that happened in the game. It took a while to figure it out, but these the orange circles basically means there's some ball movement, and then you get I think a triangle for a turnover. You get if it's blue, it means they scored. So that, like for instance, here's the 20-yard field goal there. And what's really cool about it is you can go down here and see where the plays are that you want to look at, and then if you click over here, then it'll actually bring that up on the video.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it'll take you right to it. So
it's
all those are bookmarked.
Like an index for every play.
Yeah, and it works really well.
That's nice.
The main problem that I have with it is, first, it's a little bit cryptic. Like there's nothing that tells you what the little markings mean, etc.
Yeah, right.
And second, if you can see the difference between my quite normally sized finger and the touch target, it is a little on the small side.
It's definitely not following that 48 pixel rhythm, which we're kind of expecting.
Yeah, well, not 48 dp.
48 dp, I should say. Yeah, and as well. Does clicking anywhere do the shortcut, or do you have to specifically hit the?
Actually, clicking anywhere does, as long as it has the little triangle. That means that there's an index. Now, I would probably prefer a different icon.
Yeah.
Because we've always thought that when you have a triangle pointing one way, that means that you're either going to slide and see content that's hidden over on the right, or maybe the triangle is going to turn and you're going to get some things beneath it. I mean, there's some pretty well accepted user interface guidelines that users are going to have an expectation around. Whereas in this case, all it does is click and and put the video at a different place.
Well,
it's not even always the right place, to be perfectly honest, but it's always close.
It feels like a pretty obvious icon to use instead would be, in fact, a video camera or something like that.
Sure. Absolutely. Or some sort of a bookmark icon, I think would be fine
that could work
too.
as well. There's some sort of indicator, because clicking here, you kind of assume that that it's going to be a drill down. You're going to get more detail on that particular play.
Right.
Whereas the video is probably better, but there's sort of no clue.
Now, the other thing that I would love to have is some sort of sorting ability. You can sort, for instance, on scores, but you'll notice that removes the bookmarking functionality.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a shame, because that's kind of going to be the highlight that you're going to look for.
Absolutely. Like for me, I'm all about the passing game, so I'd really like to just see all the big passes.
Sure, that makes sense.
And I found myself literally for this game just sort of scrolling through and looking for like a yardage number.
Yeah.
Oh, 15 yards. Yeah, maybe I want to see that.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of information going on this screen, but what really isn't clear is exactly, like, you have to kind of read everything in order to see anything. And so,
you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of trying to read the scrolling output from like a role-playing game or something. You remember this old school stuff?
Yeah. It actually reminds me of, so I'm a cricket fan. I'm going to want to review cricket apps at some point, but it's the same sort of thing where you have sort of constant, 6 balls and over, it's just constant whatever happened. And in those live
I just want to cut in, Reto, and just remind the viewers that you have the power on this show. We do listen to reader comments or viewer comments. We do abide in general by viewer votes when we're reviewing apps, so you have the power to stop the cricket madness.
Or indeed to force the cricket madness if that is your inclination.
Indeed.
So anyway, so the point is that a lot of people follow the cricket just by watching the live commentary, and so they've kind of optimized that process of having the most important thing first. So the number of runs scored off each particular ball is the first thing you see, or if the person was out, then that's the first thing you see in it. I'd like to see the same thing here. So the distance passed seems like that would be the most important thing on a completed play.
Yeah.
Or in fact, scoring seems like it should be something that should be, fairly obvious.
Yeah, but you can see it feels like they actually haven't taken a huge amount of care here, because if you look at this, it actually even repeats some information. This is the time on the clock, and then time on the clock is the first thing you see here as well. Right. So I think this feels like they're just pulling it off their news feed of some kind.
Yeah.
At the same time, although it could be presented in a slightly nicer format, this is some great information.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's a really
this is
useful
just
app.
a presentation thing at this point. I mean, the app itself is obviously hugely useful to any sports fan. It's really just a case here of trying to... You need to make this text bigger, you need to make the touch targets bigger, and then expand the text, because I think all of you guys watching can see that you'd be pretty lucky if you can read any of this from the camera. And in fact, as soon as you sort of sit back from it, you're checking to make sure your prescription is still valid.
Right.
It's small.
Yeah, and on a Nexus 7, it's even less
I can imagine.
This is very, very difficult to use.
This is a pretty big tablet as tablets go these days. So you really want to have that bigger. And in fact, there's no need. Like, what they've kind of optimized for here is to have as many plays on screen at a time, and that's probably not what you want to optimize for, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think rather than seeing a huge number of plays where I have to carefully read each one, I'd rather have the information presented so that I can scan it so quickly that flicking this up and down will actually be useful.
Yes, absolutely.
So if I see, and you can see they've done a little bit, like I can flick this up and down, and when I see this little bluish green color go by, even if it's moving very fast, I can see that because it stands out from the rest of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So bravo on that count. Now take that idea and extend it out to the rest of this particular UI, and I think you've got a real winner.
And in fact, what I would say is you've actually got the right idea here. So if we look over here on this side, you can actually see that they've got this really rich and large touch targets. That's probably about the size you want. And the same way that they've got their sort of background bleed image, that'd be kind of cooler than having this done here. All right? So you could have the same UI element over on this side with a big, rather than having this sort of small logo, you have that background effect, bigger text, more dramatic, view. Particularly because even here we've got light gray on slightly darker gray. If you're supposed to be able to read it, make it stand out, put it in bold, make it bright white against black, whatever you like. But I would say something like this over on this side
over
would
on
be
the
much
left
more readable.
Is great, isn't it?
That looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. I'm really impressed. So I think I just want to say one more thing about this app, and that's about the top of the app there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, please. You.
Oh no, I was just feeding you lines. I'm feeding them, and you're running.
Oh, I like this. Yeah. I need a blocker. So we kind of got this. It's not an action bar. It's a title bar, and it's kind of all wrong, right? I mean, this is a.
Move your head over.
Okay, I can move my head.
Oh man, all of a sudden I'm being Dan Galpin. Yeah, I gotta watch the conference longer.
Yeah, so this up the top, and even here where you're looking at these sort of almost tabs, turn them into actual tabs so that I stop having to do scare quotes. And this title bar should really be an action bar.
Mm-hmm.
So things like settings. So if I hit this, so yeah, I don't even know where to start. So this should all be in an overflow menu, and it shouldn't be this weird drop-down pop-up thing. It should just be a standard menu affordance. Now, as far as I know, this is a tablet app, an app for tablets only. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, so you don't actually have an excuse not to use the action bar, because you don't have to worry about backwards compatibility. You don't have to worry about how your menu is going to work on other devices. You just make it an action bar. And so all of this stuff, it's fair enough to perhaps put this in settings, but settings should kind of always be in the overflow menu. I'm not quite sure what the question mark is going to do. Oh, hello. Yeah. So it's like on-screen tips. That's actually not bad.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd make it a primary action. Again, I'd probably stick that into an overflow menu and maybe display this the first time the app came up. I don't know if it did.
I will say that in general, if you find that it's necessary to show something like this, it is probably a good clue telling you that you're
a little too complex.
Yeah, you're not doing a good UI.
Yeah, things should be as intuitive as possible. You know, you shouldn't have to explain to users how things work. You should just be able to plonk this down in front of someone who understands NFL, and they're able to start sort of getting, involved in the app. And in fact, when we do sort of internal reviews for apps, we find the ones which we like the best are the ones where, rather than everyone sitting down and sort of nitpicking which pixels should be a different color, we're all sort of actually using the app and sort of getting involved in that. I'm sure it's a similar experience for when you guys have done games reviews as well, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you want. You want it so that people aren't going, so wait, how did you get to that screen? What did you do just there? It's just like, I'm too busy getting engaged. And an app like this, which has so much content.
Right, you really need to do some user testing. Sit down with somebody, I can't emphasize this enough, don't sit down with some random guy who is probably carrying a BlackBerry or an iPhone. Sit down with somebody who's used to using an Android tablet. Sit down with somebody who's actually your target market for an Android application and watch them use it. And if they start swiping their finger across things that are unswipeable and getting frustrated, that's your first clue.
Yeah, that's a sign. In fact, I saw a little tip, so we can
so
slide here. So this is quite
swipe.
Nice, right? So you can slide between weeks, 3 weeks,
the
season,
only
4.
thing I don't really like about it is that I think that it's not obvious enough where you're at. Like if you look at most of the view pagers that we've put out, they have some sort of indication of where you are. It's either the little dots like you see on the home screen, or it's tabs or something like that.
Yeah, particularly because it gives you that indication of whether how far along you are. Now, obviously, at this side, it's obvious that there isn't anything before. See, there is, and that's interesting. So.
Well, it's wrapping around.
It is, and particularly so. I'm at pre-week 1, and it seems intuitive that there isn't anything before the first pre-week, but there is. We've got the Hall of Fame, and then we're back to pre-week 4, which is again kind of
wrapping
funny.
Around,
how we're doing a wraparound. I don't know that you want to do that.
I wouldn't have made that choice, but whatever.
But yeah, it's a call.
I mean, it's valid. It's just not. Now here,
it's
I'll
also,
tell you what I'm going to do.
You're going to
I'm going to sacrifice my Android camp hoodie to save your Google Labs lab coat.
Well, it seems like the lab coat should be the thing.
God knows they're not making any more of them.
True enough. So the other thing I'd point out as well is, this is a pretty fast device, and this scrolling is not the smoothest. So there might be something you can do there to optimize that scroll speed. And anything which makes the app feel a little janky really detracts from the user experience. So when you are designing things, everything should be as smooth as it possibly can be.
Yeah, and this is a lot of times what we see is people are either using a regular view inefficiently, or they're using a web view to do some of this. The other thing that's actually a good tip for many devices, though not all, which also happens to line up nicely with our design guidelines, is if you put a little less emphasis on the gradients here, especially if that's something that you're adding in after the fact. In general, most Android apps and the Android UI tries to be sort of simplified and flat. We don't go for the bubbly look.
Yeah.
And there are devices in the field that, possibly because of that, are not actually very good at drawing gradients.
Yeah, this is true. I did an experiment myself with a compass app, and just if you do it flat, it all renders really quickly. As soon as you try and put like a glass top on top of it, everything slows down.
Well, you got to remember that anytime you're drawing a gradient or a glassy look or anything like that, you're touching the pixels twice as often.
Yeah.
And in many cases, devices are fill bound, and that literally does make it half as fast.
There you go. All right, so the only other thing we've got here, so we've got these tabs. These should probably be actual tabs rather than these weird pseudo tabs. And again, basically this idea of the text being difficult to parse easily, being small and not of high contrast is probably something you want to look at throughout.
Yeah.
All right, shall we move on?
Yes,
Yeah?
let's do so.
All right, let's have a look.
All right. Well, I think that the top-rated apps this week by viewers were actually the
Football app,
football apps,
the
yes.
soccer apps.
the football with a round ball app.
Excellent. And in fact, I think there's international rules football also uses a round ball. I was going to say soccer is the only one which does, but it's not quite true. All right, let's have a look at FootMob Pro, which I think was one of the top
Yes.
resulting ones. I'll try and go back to the home screen. So, looking at this straight away, so this is a popular app, and I would suggest that one of the main reasons for that is because it's very useful. You can get all the soccer scores from basically whichever league you want to watch, including the Major League Soccer.
Oh, good. Let's see if my favorite team, Real Salt Lake, is in there. Apparently not.
Apparently not.
Back we go.
So that's one thing to be concerned of straight away, is that I'm not entirely sure what this icon represents, but clicking it should take you to something. I kind of assumed it would be rankings, which makes sense. The very fact that it didn't appear for the MLS suggests that we're pulling this down.
American soccer sucks?
Could be. It could be.
I don't actually mean that. Of course, American soccer is the greatest, just like anything American, compared to most Australian things, is what I'm saying.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Austrian, of course.
Let's pick on the Australians. We're all asleep right now.
Let's do that.
Seems reasonable enough.
All right. So yeah, I don't know why that's not showing up, but
I
it
think
would be
it's
nice
just
to have
failing to
something.
pull down the data,
Yeah.
right? And so you want to have some indication here that it's loading.
Right.
Now, I'm not a big fan of loading dialogues or anything like that, but there should be some indication that, hey, I'm trying to pull down data, and if it fails, saying, I tried to, but for whatever reason, I can't get the information.
Yeah. Now, I will say that the iconography of this interface is a little puzzling to me, and you're gonna have to, just check me on this, because obviously I don't actually follow soccer.
Sure.
Maybe this is all totally old hat to you, but I see this thing here, and I think, well, that maybe looks like a list. I don't know. And then, no, apparently, I don't know what I did there.
It's
And
the
then I
funky
get
touch
here,
targets.
and then apparently this baby over here, to me, it looked like a what I would call a soccer ball, but
I was gonna go with
apparently
Mickey
that's
Mouse.
actually the top scorers button.
Interesting. See,
So-
that wouldn't have been obvious to me either.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
might
I
be
would
a-
have thought maybe the opposite. Like if its top scorers would have been a person, or maybe even a person kicking, or maybe even a goal. I don't know. There's a few options there, but definitely
Yeah.
the iconography needs work. The idea of having the action bar here is reasonable, but again, I would go with a more standard up affordance rather than this pseudo back button. It's
Yeah.
confusing. Is it an up button? Is it a back button? Is it different from the back button down the
Right.
bottom? It's not quite right.
Yeah, that's a different. Longtime viewers of the show know that I've never been completely comfortable with the idea that something pointing to the left is actually taking me up.
Oh, that's
But-
because this is an affordance, you see, rather than
Right.
just a button.
Exactly. And affordance sounds like something you live in if you're on a fixed income.
It really does.
Doesn't it? But the point is that space is, as a honeycomb, reserved for something that will take you to the previous point in the view hierarchy of the application,
Yeah.
as opposed to the previous screen that you were on before, which is what the system back button is for.
Exactly.
And the general iconography for that is that it should have something akin to your application icon in general. That's with like a left chevron.
Exactly.
In this case we've kind of bounced between what looks like a back button and what looks like a down button.
So I guess this is an attempt at an overflow menu, but on the wrong side.
You think?
Well, we're choosing leagues, so it's kind of settings here at this point, right?
Okay, but that's the only thing, right? I mean, it's not like choose leagues and a bunch of other stuff.
That's true. That's true. So either way, I think you really want to redesign this into something more like an action bar. So once you go into the app, you've got some sort of iconography on the top saying what the app is.
Now, see, of course, like all good Android users, I'm swiping.
You are swiping.
There's a really good reason for people to swipe. First, in Android, tabs go on top. Which you can see they've already violated.
Yeah.
And of course, that makes one thumb navigation more difficult, which we've solved by adding the swipe action.
Absolutely.
So even though that might feel a little bit like an Ambrose Bierce short story, I ruined that by not even saying it right.
Yeah, it was almost really good.
Yeah, it could have been. You are you end up having to move your thumb all around. I want to get to tomorrow. Why can't I get to tomorrow by swiping? It just seems like the normal thing, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So you want to eliminate these and replace them with something which is more like a view pager type setup straight away. Move this into an action bar which sits on the top right. Get rid of this whole, let's have a look here. So get rid of this whole sort of down chevron button for choosing leagues. If it's something which you want users to do, then make it an action. If it's something which they should be able to do but don't want to do very often, then it should probably sit under settings in the overflow menu. But either way, it looks really weird. And I do recognize it as a glyph that we used to use in a version of Android at some point. I vaguely remember back from
You're absolutely
Cupcake.
right. It was back in the the Cupcake Eclair days, back when we didn't have any designers and we were basically just stealing art off the internet.
Just making it up as we went along.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, none of that stuff looked good. I'm just going to call that right now.
It really didn't. And that's the beauty of the new stuff is that it really does. We've got an incredible design team now, which have really spent a lot of time and effort thinking about how to make stuff look awesome. So when you can, take advantage of that.
Yep.
We see the same thing here as we saw in the previous app, where you've got really small touch targets and really small text. And again, we're looking at the league here. There's no reason why we can't scroll more if we have to.
See, this is what I love about American soccer, by the way. We got Real Salt Lake, which I just can't laugh enough about.
I can't bring myself to even say that. To me, that has to be Real Salt Lake.
But what about this CD Chivas USA? I mean, what does that even mean? Is it? I mean, is it because they're owned by the Scotch company, or is there something called a Chiva, of which this is the plural?
It could be. They are the Chivas.
Do we have anybody, producer Alex? Do we have anybody on YouTube that knows the answer to this mystery?
Nobody's commenting.
If anyone
nobody's commenting at all?
Or sorry, nobody's commenting. Nobody's answering your question.
Oh, okay. Are they seeing stuff about us?
Not really, no.
Darn.
Is anyone watching?
Right.
Hello?
Yeah.
45 people are watching.
Nice. Hey guys. Also, how do you like my haircut? Do you notice I got a football haircut?
True story.
And I've got a football grin too.
Terrifying.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was trying to figure out what the story was behind CD Chivas earlier today, and I could not for the life of me figure it out. I don't even know where they play. I don't know. It's a mystery. The good news is that the San Jose Earthquakes, which is, I guess, our local team, is leading the Western League. So.
Awesome. Yeah, right down there in San Jose.
Absolutely.
Yep. Right next to all the used car dealerships and the check cashing places.
Sweet.
Which,
Go Earthquakes.
Yeah, paycheck cashing place is San Jose's second largest business.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What's its top business? Is that Safe for Work?
I think it's Adobe.
That'd do it. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, well, there you go. And this is the problem, right? And this is a really good tip. If you find that your users are exiting the app unexpectedly, then your navigation is broken. And that's the sort of thing we see the most frequently, where people are using you've got multiple tabs here, and so you're jumping around and you're choosing different things, and then you get back to here and you've pressed a bunch of buttons.
Yeah, I want to go back to where I was.
And you can't quite remember where you started. It's like, well, I want to go back to just the list of things. And it's like, oh, wait, no, that wasn't it.
Although it's somewhat telling that I wasn't disappointed in that particular result. But this is actually kind of a problem with sports apps in general. We just had a talk on Thursday internally about some sports apps, and one of the things that I think we all agreed on is that these are incredibly challenging because they have to present a gargantuan amount of information. I mean, sports, if you think about just how much information needs to be presented and all of the different ways that you can slice it and dice it, it is a serious UI challenge.
Absolutely.
But that's a great reason to really think this through and to always follow Android UI guidelines, because the more you can make it like all other Android apps, the more you can make consistent UI decisions that people are going to expect, the more usable your app's going to be. And you have to target usability because you've got so much to present that your app out of the gate is already confusing.
Absolutely. I mean, anything which is so rich in data runs that risk. And so it's really, the navigation is probably your biggest challenge. But otherwise, I mean, the app itself is pretty good. You know, you've got your stats, you've got your scores, all of this sort of stuff. Really, the key here is that this whole app just kind of needs a navigation refresh and a UI refresh, something to bring it up to standard with sort of your ICS type imagery and layouts.
Yeah. And I'm just going to make one other comment on the, just the gradients here. I don't like that. I think it's unnecessary. And the thing is, I'm a big fan of gradients. I think gradients can look really incredible, and a lot of times they're much better than a flat screen. But they are a little bit tired right now. They're sort of they've been done.
They're kind of the lens flare of the 10s.
Right. But more than that, gradients look good in isolation. When you stack a bunch on top of each other like this, then the eye starts picking up this pattern, and it ends up looking kind of cheesy.
It does. It really does. If you're not going to have them sort of, flowing between different colors like some sort of old school like jukebox type scenario, then it's just going to be distracting instead.
Right. So, in fact, if you look at some of the things that we've done with gradients that I think were very attractive, we've done things like take a list and then put a continuous gradient all the way down the screen behind it. That's also fairly expensive. So
Absolutely,
it's not easy to do, and not all devices can handle it, but it looks fantastic. Whereas just stacking these up like this is...
Yeah, it's a waste.
We have a couple questions on the stream, actually.
Awesome. We would
Outstanding.
love to answer
Please.
some live questions.
First, Gerald Smith asks, overflow menu, what does he mean by that? If you could describe go into a little more detail about what you're referring to when you say the overflow menu.
Absolutely. So the overflow menu is the extra menu options that you see on the action bar when... Let's have a look. We'll fire up. What's a good app for the overflow menu?
Play Store.
Let's go with the Play Store.
It has an overflow menu. Okay, there you go.
Perfect. So this is the overflow menu here. Let's try and just get to the standard action bar if we can. So here we've got the action bar. This is your typical actions, and then everything which is behind that menu button is the overflow menu. So that's where you want to put things which users need to get to, but it's probably not the most important thing. So settings, anything like about, account information, the sorts of things that they have here are a perfect example of what you want to put in the overflow.
Exactly. And it's worth mentioning that the overflow menu contents can actually change. Now, in this case, they haven't. But there are apps where, given a little bit more horizontal space, you'd actually see more action icons over here on the right, and then the overflow menu would have fewer options in it. Gmail, for instance.
Yeah, Gmail's a good one.
In general, what you want to do is think of your action bar as having two essential pieces. One over on the left, you've got the navigation piece, and that is split into your up affordance, in this case, as we talked about, the left chevron, the icon, and usually some indication of where you're at. In this case, it's our search result on NFL. And then potentially another navigational piece like a drop down. And then over on the right, you've got the second major portion of your action bar, which is the action piece, and that's going to be a set of icons. If you want, you can put text here as well, although that's usually not quite as effective. It certainly takes up more horizontal space. And then the overflow. Now you will also see on some devices, on some apps, a menu that looks like the overflow menu down here in the corner. Now we call that the menu button of shame. And the reason is the only time you see that menu button is when you haven't updated your app for an SDK, a target SDK that's greater than Honeycomb.
Absolutely. And the most so now this is a proper one of shame.
Yes,
so there's two versions of this. There's the unfortunate version where you've got an app and you haven't updated it yet, and so you haven't figured out how your pre-existing menu is going to work with an action bar. And so that takes a little bit of thought, so that's not good. But what this is the real button of shame, which is here, and it does absolutely nothing. So all you need to do is change your target SDK, and that will go away.
You know, the worst thing is on some devices with custom UIs, having that button there will actually do a bunch of layout changes.
Oh, wow.
You know, they'll actually put the menu button on over the top of the system buttons.
Nice.
So having that be empty is extremely unfortunate.
Yeah.
Now you've just taken up screen real estate for absolutely no reason at all.
Nice. Okay, was there another question?
Yeah,
Alex?
Gerald says thanks.
No worries,
And
Jared.
next question is from Ross Larson, who says, can we talk about app permissions here? I couldn't install this year's version of the NFL Draft Tracker app because my device didn't have an onboard GPS.
Oh, you know, we would love to talk about app. In fact, we should do a complete show on app permissions.
I think we will. I think we'll do an office hours on permissions.
Right, but the problem is we don't have any show called the Friday Rant.
That's true. The Friday Rage.
And we still haven't gotten permission to utter pornography.
You're on for an hour a week.
Profanity
That's,
on
that's
it.
the Friday Rant.
Pornography? Interesting.
Pornography
Freudian
and profanity.
Profanity. That would be quite a show.
Are involved with permissions. Yeah. Although I'm not 100% sure that he's asking for permission. There are also features that come into play, right?
Well, I think this is the issue, is that if you request certain permissions, then for legacy reasons that implies a feature requirement as well, and GPS is one of those. If you request either fine or coarse location, well, no, if you request fine location, then the system will imply that, well, actually, you're going to probably meant to require a GPS as well.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. You know, being unable to install that on a system that doesn't have a GPS is an indication that the app has done something that we consider to be sketchy. First, they haven't made it so you can have an optional permission, that or an optional feature. But more importantly, they're requiring fine location, which is unusual and almost always indicates that they have an ad network that's attempting to track you at an inappropriate level.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, obviously it's going to depend on the app, and you're going to have to figure out based on what they offer, if that makes sense. And I suspect if it's if it's anything which is displaying video, they may be using the fine location to figure out where you are to make sure that they have the rights to show you that video in that location.
Coarse location would do that as well, right? I mean,
It should
in general,
be at the very least city, accurate to a city level, which should definitely be sufficient for anything like rights management.
The thing too is if you are doing that, then it's totally insecure because you're just trusting the client to say where it's at. That could be hijacked so easily. So I think most video services
probably a little bit clever.
In general, they'll do IP filtering, which is easy to spoof as well, but more costly.
Yeah. Okay. So for developers out there wondering how you get around this, you can simply specify a user's feature and specify location as required false, which effectively makes it optional. And then within your app, you'll need to check to see whether or not there is a GPS or some form of location sensing hardware available before you make those location update requests. And
consider that not just for GPS, but for other things that you may or may not find. For instance, a back-facing camera.
Yeah, that's the big one, yeah.
Yeah, if you ask for a camera, well, several devices, and the most important one to us being the Nexus 7, do not have rear-facing cameras. And the rear-facing camera is what you get if you say you need a camera. I think that's a little confusing, honestly.
It can be, but it's one of those legacy type deals where when we put in the user's feature and permission for a camera, there was only rear-facing cameras. So yeah.
In general, I think the rule of thumb is don't ask for a feature or a permission unless your app depends on it.
Absolutely.
If that's what your app is all about, if all your app does is take photos, then by all means say that a camera is required. But if your app has any other functionality, for instance, viewing sets of photos or applying hipster
filters,
effects to your photos, then don't require a camera because people might want to do that with the stuff that they've uploaded to Google Plus or the things that they've downloaded from their camera or whatever.
Because keep in mind, for those users, Nexus 7 users aren't going to be outraged to find that they can't take photos with your photo-taking app, given that they have a device without a camera. So you definitely
can figure that out.
Exactly. They'll know what to expect. So you want to give them as much as they can, so they can still do, the other things.
Okay. Now I'm just going to say we've covered a grand total of 2 apps.
It's done well.
And Engineer Daniel is over there going like this.
I'm going to have no time to set up this next show.
He is the producer of the show. But
That's because engineer Daniel's going to be on the next show, right? So he just doesn't want to have his time in the sun curtailed by us
That's
going
true.
over.
That is very true.
We
That's
are
a
on to
really
you,
good
Daniel.
point. The truth is, I think we've looked at what most of the apps in this category do, pretty deeply,
Yeah.
feature-wise, and in terms of the mistakes that we've seen people make. So why don't we just really quickly do a lightning round? We got DFB.
Yeah, I think all of the sort of sports updates, news, and scores, I think, is all going to be pretty much along the same lines.
Yeah.
Did you want to have spend a couple of minutes looking at any of the fantasy football apps?
I think we better not. I think
Yeah.
I just, we looked at the one app that had some things we didn't like about it. I think it'd be fair to look at some of these other apps because I think
Sure,
they
yeah.
do things better or worse. For instance, DFB, despite the fact that it's completely in German, I found myself liking it a lot more.
It's just got a much
because
more
yeah.
conventional style here. We've got a normal action bar with a normal layout, navigation on the left,
And it's
swipeable view
beautiful.
page. Looks really nice.
Yeah, it makes me feel like I'm reading a sports page.
Yes, this is a key, and this is again something we discussed internally. It's like the thing about any sports news information is that imagery is really important to that. It's like we watch sports for the imagery it contains, and so you want to have something which is like reading a magazine, lots of images, lots of video, lots of full bleed content, so that you're sort of swiping through, looking at stuff, and then seeing what catches your eye. I think that's really powerful.
In fact, like the only thing that I would love to see is for these pictures here to actually be larger.
Absolutely.
Now we've complained some about apps that put text over images when that's inappropriate, especially for social apps, for instance, that have images that are user created. You never know exactly what you're going to get.
Absolutely.
But in this case, you do, and it's almost always appropriate to bleed this through, just the way they've done here.
Exactly, the way that you've got it here on the title. If it was just all of the items in that list done the same way, I think that would look fantastic.
Now, did you see it just synced and the sync icon
Did it
rotated
automatically.
Beautiful,
Very nice.
very nice. I don't know what this is. Apparently
Nothing
it's
good.
It's the crash button,
It's the quick
But-
exit button.
right? But you can see they've done exactly what we ask in the action bar,
Perfect.
which means I know exactly how to use this application. I know that I'm going to see actions up here. I know if I want to share, it's going to be there. I'm guessing this is making the text bigger or smaller. That's nice.
Makes sense.
If I want to save this for later, what am I going to do?
You're going to hit the star, right?
Absolutely. Star button.
Boom. It's kind of the wrong
Perfect.
color, but that's okay. And it probably wants to be
alright.
offset a little bit so that it doesn't hit
It's
the edges.
probably one of those European star buttons.
But, I'm
it's-
nitpicking at this
Everything's
point.
different over there.
The other thing I'd also...
Now it's
we've
a
got
little
some
crashy,
crashy issues, yeah.
and the up affordance is a little.
It's a little sketchy.
different,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
not quite right. The other thing I'd point out as well is that we have this mixture of icon style. So you can see here that we're presumably using the system built-in icons for refresh and share, but the ones that these guys have built themselves are slightly different colored. So I don't know if this comes across on the video, but these are gray and the custom ones here are white.
Really tough to get right.
It is hard to get right, but it's worth doing, and it's also worth doing them all yourself. So rather than depending on the system to provide some, use the system provided ones. I believe they're available for download from developer.android.com/design these days. And so this way you don't have to worry about the system changing any of them on a different implementation.
Although hopefully that won't happen nearly as much anymore. But yes,
But it's
that's
particularly
exactly true.
with different manufacturers putting skins on their devices, you never know for certain what icons they're going to provide. So
Exactly.
by providing them yourself, you have that security.
Okay, and just really quickly, I think the last thing we were going to look at was the live score thing. See, loading countries right there. My American sensibilities.
Yeah, it's out the window.
Yeah.
See, quick setup should be done automatically. So again, you don't want to have to go through and do all of this the first time. You just want to jump straight into whatever you think is the most obvious. Now, whether that's choosing countries based on the current location, using course location to get an idea, or just picking the countries which most people use, all of those sorts of things are going to provide a better experience so that people can get started straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course I'm gonna follow Real Salt Lake, just because stuff just gives me a... Okay, so in general this has some good stuff going for it. It's got the it's obviously syncing or something, but it's showing me something while it's syncing.
You get data straight away, and that's really
Right.
important.
Yeah, and it's a really pretty Yeah, I love
It's
the
nice.
color.
Again, the text is really, really
It's a little small.
It's that
Yeah.
I think this is a common problem from people who are going, we have so much data, how do we display it all at once? Well, you don't have to display it at once.
Right.
Better to have fewer things on screen and let people do a flick scroll or a
The
left
very
right
last
scroll.
thing that I want to mention is, although this looks like an action bar,
Mhm.
it's not. It
not
doesn't
an action
act the
bar.
way an action bar does. It doesn't have an up affordance. It doesn't have actions on the right.
Mm-hmm.
It's got navigation here, but one of the navigation things is more, which does not include. It's not just navigation.
And in fact, this is really most of this stuff should belong in the overflow menu.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you might want to think about actually just moving to a standard Android action bar, or if that just doesn't suit your sensibilities, maybe moving to a drawer pattern or something like that.
Absolutely.
And that is definitely all the time we have, but we've been able to cover all the apps, so I'm really pleased about that. Thanks very much to our engineer Daniel Pham and our producer Alex Lucas. And I think it's about time to sign up.
Yeah, I think we'll need to sign off. So we're going to have engineer Daniel is going to come in front of the camera and join
Absolutely.
you, I think, this week, Ian,
Yes.
to have a look at some NFL games.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be exciting. I'm not sure what we've got scheduled for next week in terms of the app clinic. Do we know for certain?
We actually haven't decided yet, but you made a great post on G Plus asking for topics. So I think we should take a look at that and choose based on what people want to see.
Perfect. All right. So
Yeah,
we're
that was
going
on
to.
your personal G Plus, right?
It was, yeah. So
Yeah.
we're gonna go through that list and see what you guys want us to have a look at, and we'll update the moderator page with the details for that, and look for your suggestions over the what is for us here in the US at least Labor Day long weekend.
Excellent.
So until then, enjoy the weekend, and hopefully stay tuned for the Friday games review. Goodbye, everyone.